Well, ladies and gentlemen, I did mention as we started this morning that we would have a small interactive session. And I'd like to now request Mr. Anurag to initiate that session with Mr. Azim Premji. Just for your information, we had some questions that had come in earlier, and these are essentially the set that would be addressed.
So, like I said, it's a pleasure to have you here earlier. It's a pleasure to have him here with us. And therefore, it's perhaps the right occasion to have a short interaction between you and Mr. Premji. So, all my young friends, students from schools and colleges, basically the field is open to you, right? And we have about 15 minutes. Sachin, where are we? About 15 minutes? Yeah? And, don't worry. I mean, we had requested for questions earlier. Don't worry about whether you asked, didn't ask. If you have a curiosity, go ahead and ask a question or say what you want to say. And by no means do you need to limit yourself to earthians or to the issue of sustainability or to anything. Whatever comes to your mind, please go ahead and ask, right? Should we start? Can I have some hands up? Are you a student? So I'm going to restrict this to students. Sorry? Maybe, if we have time, because us elders always tend to corner everything. So we will sort of wait, we'll wait. And we know how students are hesitant to ask questions. Excellent. Go ahead. Yes.
Use the mic.
I was wondering whether you think that environmental science should be considered as a science in the school curriculum, because we're all from a school, just like physics or chemistry or any of the other subjects.
Your question is whether environmental science should be part of the curriculum of a school?
Yeah, a regular
one of the whole objectives of us launching this Earthian program a little over a year back is to get it incorporated into curriculums in school. A high degree of focus in school teaching and school learning, which is hopefully interactive in terms of the importance of green and the importance of sustainability. And I think in some of the more progressive schools or some of the more westernized schools, it is already there as part of the curriculum. But hopefully it should become part of the curriculum of even government schools and semi-government schools going forward. Because unless we're able to sow the roots for this very early in the life cycle of a child or a student, we are trying to build on a platform which is not solid.
It was wonderful that you started, because somebody has got to make a start. But I must again urge you that you have him in your hands. So don't limit yourself to environment and ecological issues. By no means I'm suggesting that you don't ask about that, but you can ask him anything. How did he build Wipro? You guys don't want to know that?
Why are you monitoring them? Let them ask their questions.
He's my boss, so it's okay. I'll let it pass.
I'm sorry.
Yes, please. I can't see. Yeah, okay.
Sorry, it's again related to
Just speak into the mic, please.
Louder.
Yeah. So it's again related to environmental. I'm sorry, but so.
Don't be sorry.
Yeah. Do you really think that like a subject being in a curriculum will help? Because we all have chemistry, physics, and everything. Does not mean we set up laboratories in our home doing explosive stuff and all that, right? So in our project we found that awareness is not the problem. Everyone knows, but the attitude is the problem. I mean, not everyone is thinking twice before doing it. So,
in the first place, I'm not sure how much awareness there is, if you take it universally. I mean, the audience here is obviously very aware, and that's why they're here in terms of voluntary participation. I think it's very important that it's an ingrained part of what you learn in school. How can you divorce an education system which doesn't have some fundamentals of the way society functions or must function as part of the curriculum of building children and building young adults. So I think that's very important. But equally important, it should not be, again, something which is rote learning. So one would hope that the teaching of this is much more interactive, much more oriented towards actual acts which you perform vis-a-vis field studies and field participations and field projects. This is an ideal subject matter for giving young students an opportunity to really get active in the field, more than any other subject, which is there on a curriculum, which tends to be very classroom oriented and very rote learning oriented. This is not a subject matter which is rote learning oriented, or should not be.
Thank you.
You know, my young friend, don't measure all the schools in this country by the yardstick of Rishi Valley. Okay. So what he said is, I think, very critical. That while there is obvious awareness and deep sensibility here in this hall and perhaps within the 800 institutions that participated, but certainly is not equal across the country. Right? Yes, please. Next. Yeah? Mic there? Oh, you have the mic? Okay, you occupy. So
Good morning, and good morning to everybody here. In the earlier session today, when Mr. Anurag was speaking, he told us that the main problem with the event was that you couldn't reach to the villages and students there. So what I talk now is partly a question and partly a suggestion. What you also told is that urban students were mostly involved in this. So my part of the suggestion is, why not involve the urban students to interact with the rural students, and we are basically in this urban environment all the time. So it will be a kind of exposure for us also, and it will be a new experience for us to go and meet the people there. And apart from this, how do you plan to expand your movement to the villages? My question is, how do you plan to expand your movement to the villages, and why not involve us in that initiative?
Let me answer this question in two parts. One is that it's certainly our intention to extend this program into the small towns and then into the villages. The issue is the manageability of it in terms of its breadth and how much it can scale, and how many partners we are able to develop in the course of our teaching, because the partners we have developed so far are really in education, not in a specific to sustainability, where they build specialized skills. We are focused on urban schools because of accessibility and reach, and because we have just started the program. The second reason we are focused on urban schools is that Wipro carries a presence in urban schools. We do not carry a presence in rural schools. But the foundation carries only a presence in rural schools. So we have a reach and an accessibility and a brand which can extend into rural schools. So the rollout can be practical if we work with the right kind of partners and with the right kind of field people. So far as using students of the urban schools as coaches to expand into rural schools, I think it's an idea worth pursuing, provided we choose the right students. We don't want a situation where we have the blind leading the blind. That's very important. So students who have exhibited leadership, I think it will be a huge experience for them, and it will carry far more credibility with the rural students if fellow students are really spearheading some of the leadership in terms of sustainability.
Thank you, sir.
good question. Are you a student or are you a teacher? Just wanted to make sure. Somebody there.
Sir, I had a question here.
You know, he had, sorry,
Right in the beginning.
where is that?
The small detail.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, is it okay? I'll come to you, don't worry. And you know, I might seem unfair in terms of the way I'm picking, but it's not easy to pick out hands from here. You could take my role actually. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. Hi, this is Vinayak. We are from Mumbai. I like the way the program is completely taken care. You had a concept of giving funding, so who will win the prizes and all. But I want to ask a question. We have come up with the idea of decentralized production, power production process. How do you like to take forward it? As in, many of us came with the projects, research kind of things, where we can do, we had a project, watch your waste. Maybe that is a part of waste management product or project. How Wipro or Earthian wants to take forward it. As in, we did a research on that. But as a school or a college student, we cannot take forward it the way you can. How do you want to take it?
So in order to discourage more questions in Earthian, I will now respond to Earthian questions. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Not Mr. Premji. Okay. You know, the intent of the Earthian program and of Wipro is to help you light a fire, right? And I'm sure there are fires burning, and that's why all of you guys are here. But it's just to help you light a fire. And some of the things that we have here, and not just the entries that came here, but the 800 entries that we talked about, some of them are eminently practical. Eminently practical, they're not impractical things. However, I think they need to be pursued in the context that they're developed. Right? The Wipro as an organization will not pursue that idea. But if it is eminently practical, I'm sure your college will find other people in the ecosystem who can work with it, or you as a person who's perhaps really, really dedicated to that idea, when you go out and join an organization, perhaps you will pursue it, right? So the purpose of Earthian is to light 1 million fires, or help spark 1 million fires, right? We can't help the fire burn down this whole country right now. Okay, thank you. There. So have I adequately discouraged you to ask Earthian questions now by answering?
So the Azim Premji Foundation is doing a lot into the educational system. So we are contributing a lot, especially in the elementary educational programs. But however, India ranked second last position among the 73 countries in the recent International Student Assessment Program, which to test the basic mathematics and English skills. So, and the dropout rates are increasing. So how do you think we should approach the problem? Is there any problem with the current approach towards our educational system?
We have performed badly because we have performed badly. As simple as that. And you know, the interesting thing is, there's an international survey, and there's a survey which we had commissioned as a foundation and as a company. And there's a huge amount of correlation between the two surveys. So one cannot doubt its authenticity or its credibility. And it's a big message. And the sadder thing is that it's not the private schools that have performed better, nor even the fairly elitist private schools have performed much better. So it's fundamental to our system of teaching, whereby there's an excessive amount of emphasis on rote teaching. That's fundamental to that. In government schools, it's an emphasis not only on the rote teaching, but very poor quality teachers, which in some of the private institutes or some of the very elitist private institutes, you've got very high quality teachers. But the system academically, the curricula academically, the way performance is measured academically, where it is really in terms of being able to regurgitate what you have learned versus being able to question, challenge, and measure competencies in terms of the ability for you to learn more, the ability for you to question more, is at stake. And that is a fundamental reorientation which has to be done in the education system. And what we are trying to do both in Wipro as well as in the foundation is to bring in a measurement of competency as part of the measurement system of education learning. And some states have begun to adopt it. So it's not that there's a total resistance to it, but it's a long, drawn-out process. Because number one, there is a lot of vested interest in the sense that it's the area of competency of a teacher. The teacher doesn't have to think very much. The teacher does not have to prepare very much. And the teacher does not have to be academically very sound to be able to just teach a child to memorize or a young student to memorize. But it's a drawn-out process. We have been working for 10 years. We have made some headway. We have nowhere made the headway we would have liked to make. We have nowhere been as successful as we would have liked to be. But we will work for the next 20 years, 25 years at it.
Repeat it louder.
I'm from Premise World School, and I was just wondering that all these companies that have programs to save the environment, don't you think that this initiative conflicts with the business's ultimate objective of earning a profit?
Very clever question.
Doesn't it conflict with the
With that? No, we've been rolling this out in our company now very actively for the past 5 years. And we've got a fair measure of recognition for it. But the reality is, when we started this, we looked at it much more as an act of business sense. When you save water, you save money. When you save electricity, you save money. When you have proper biodiversity in the little green space which you have in and around your offices, and quite a lot of green space when you have campuses like we've had, fortunately, up to now. With the land acquisition build, I don't know whether we'll be able to have it anymore going into the future. You save air conditioning because plants and trees breathe out coolness in terms of the whole process of their development. So we looked at it in a very commercial sense. But what we did is we took a much more long-term view on the commercial returns and a payback which was more extended, and internal measurement system of internal rates of return, which were much below those which we would typically assess a commercial project on. So we have been able to integrate quite uniquely a business purpose with a CSR purpose of sustainability. Even you look at our program, Mission 10X, which we do in engineering schools in terms of upgrading education. The long-term intention is if professors are better trained, they train better students. If curriculums are more up-to-date, it means that the students who graduate from there in science and engineering require less induction by us in terms of curriculum motivation. So we have been able to tie it fairly well, but with a long-term perspective and more relaxed norms on how much returns we expect. And if you really want to get an industry following on it, that's the way it should be done.
Must point out that the purpose of business, at least in our view, is not to make profits. The purpose of business is to make profits ethically and in the long term. Right? So those two words are critical, ethically and in the long term.
So,
Yeah.
So I had a question. We have many assumptions that when two people get married, they will be able to make a perfect home for their children, for the generations to come. But a home is not just four walls and a roof. It involves many other things. A home is where a child gets its first education before the school. So nowadays we see that homes are becoming so much more consumeristic. We are beginning to consume more and more. We are competing with the world around. A home competes with the world around to survive. So we are not in perfect harmony with the environment, with the other homes around us. So how do you think can our approach towards home be integral? How can it be in such a manner that we can live in harmony?
I hope I had an easy answer to this. I don't have an easy answer to this. And when both the mother and the father work, it becomes even more difficult to be able to have an integrated opportunity for children to get the right kind of guidance at home. I think what parents need to realize that their parental influence is such a critical part of a child's development. Parental influence of both the father and the mother. And the more awareness we're able to build vis-a-vis that, I think people then begin to get some priorities reorganized in terms of how they need to divide the cake of responsibility. Responsibility to the office, responsibility to consumerism, responsibility to home values and bringing up home values. And there's little question that westernization and modernization takes trade-offs which are not necessarily in favor of the child's development in a home, or the home's development as a home versus a house. I think there's a consciousness which needs to be built. And I think you've expressed something which is very important from the point of view of an alertness to parents.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You know, that's a very, very deep question. And Mr. Premji has given a response which is the wisdom that he has on that basis. And if you're really interested into the philosophical aspects of this question, you should talk to Professor Venu. Professor Venu is a philosopher and my friend for a long, long time. He's sitting there. At the break, corner him and talk to him. Okay. Yes.
So good morning, sir. It's like a dream come true to see you. But my question is that Wipro, how to get a job in Wipro? You're looking. Except the qualification, everybody can get a qualification. What do you look in them?
What do we look for in the people we employ?
Because I'm inspired by you.
We look for some basic measure of academic excellence. Because when you're in school, when you're in college, that's your job. You have to perform. You have to perform to a certain measure of academic excellence. Not necessarily in the top 10%, but certain measure of academic excellence. So for a shortlisting purpose, a lot of our focus would be in the top half of the class, not the bottom half of the class. But that's a mechanical way of doing it because your probability of getting the right students are better.
Sir,
Two is we attach importance to extracurricular activities, particularly in positions where we are recruiting for leadership positions, and particularly extracurricular activities where you have demonstrated some leadership in school. Three is we look at whether you have passion. I mean, jobs require a lot of passion on an ongoing basis. So whatever you've done in terms of your studies or your life or your extra activities, have you demonstrated adequate passion in them? And your ability to be persistent. To make changes in any organization, you have to have a measure of very high persistency. You've got to go on and on and on and on. If you don't have that persistency, very often you fall out just when success is around the corner.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We have time only for one last question.
There's a lady there who's got her hands up right from the beginning. I don't know why you're avoiding her. Go ahead, madam.
That's because, okay, so what we'll do is we'll take both the questions. We'll take your question and we'll take your question and we'll end with that. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
All right. So we'll take your question first and then last yours. We'll end with you. Okay,
Good morning, sir. First, I would like to ask, what is the advice you would give to students who would like to start an organization like Wipro?
What would be my advice to students who want to start an organization like Wipro?
Yes, sir.
The reality is you'll have to start small. Like we started small. And you must have a very clear understanding of why you want to do it and what focus you want to build. And the focus you want to build in terms of starting an organization is something which must be deeply passionate inside you. Because you're going to go through ups and downs. In many cases, you're going to fail. Certainly in parts of your journey, you're going to have major failures. So unless you have a very clear commitment to the focus which you build in terms of what you want to build successfully, and have the flexibility to change that focus because you've not judged the market properly. The markets don't run after you. You have to run after what the market demand is, or the market demand you can create. But you have to be persistent, and you have to be prepared to make sacrifices, because you will have to make sacrifices in the early stages, and some very major sacrifices, and most of them will be financial sacrifices, because you won't get cash flows the way you hope to get cash flows, unless you have a brilliant, genius idea. Then you'll get cash flows.
So I have one more question.
No,
Please.
we have the
We'll
stadium.
take the last question there. And
Please,
we'll
sir.
Come.
Two more? But let her ask first, because she's been...
Getting very agitated.
So Mr. Anurag talked about what really clicked for him, why he became environmentally oriented, why he thought, yeah, I want to see a change in the world. What clicked it for you, sir? I mean, what changed you to change Wipro into the earth-oriented company it is today?
Well, I think the fundamental thing is I like the outdoors. And if you really like the outdoors, you're very, very conscious of the environment. Because you can see, the deterioration which is taking place, the disappearance of green spots where you can take walks or jog, the disappearance of the sound of birds, the extent of pollution you see all around you. So the air is no longer as pure as you used to be. And at one stage you sit up and say, can we do something about it? Because what will it be 10 years from today, 20 years from today, and 30 years from today? As simple as that. I mean, your system reacts to it and says, you're being deprived of something which is very dear to you. And many other people are being deprived of something which could be very dear to them or is very dear to them. And many of them have not realized how dear it could be because they've never seen it, which is the saddest part of it. People who have grown up in a small flat in a cement jungle don't realize what it means to be otherwise.
Thank you.
Sir, how could Wipro make the government of India work on and take effective measurements on sustainability issues?
I think in fairness, every section of society has good people and less good people and bad people. I think it's unfair to make a blanket statement that government doesn't work hard. There are many people in government who work very, very hard, and there are many people in government who don't work at all. So I think we have to appreciate that. It would be a disservice to people who have really contributed to building the nation. I think what we need to do is much stronger leadership at the top. And I'm just not talking about the Prime Minister because it's not a one-man show. Much stronger leadership at the part, more committed people getting into Parliament and be willing to make the sacrifice of getting into Parliament and not with a short-term objective of how they can exploit getting into Parliament. And I think an adequate governance system which is executed or implemented. I think it's not that we have absence of the equivalent of Lokpals in our countries. We have many equivalents of Lokpal in our country, which is part of the entire administrative and constitutional framework. We've got to make them work. We've got to make them work relentlessly. Just keeping on adding bodies is not serving the same purpose. And there has to be adequate advocacy from citizens to push back. I'm surprised that a legislation as powerful as the Right to Information Act is not used by society. You have situations in villages where if you have totally 10 teachers in that village, of the 4 or 5 schools which may be there, or 5 teachers in that village, somewhere between 1 and 2 of them never attend school. Now that's a simple thing for a village housewife or a village father to ask questions on. And the system gives him a right to get an answer. So a lot of what we are wanting to do now in the foundation is build a very strong advocacy culture at the grassroots level in a village, whereby they start questioning issues on education. They start questioning issues on teachers not taking their job seriously. They start questioning issues on why the midday meal, which is a free meal, is not of a standard quality which is prescribed, and of a standard quantity which is prescribed.
Namaste, Azim ji. I request you to... Here, sir.
Where is this?
I'm here. I request you to give me the privilege to ask the last question for the day.
Okay, so I will not give you the privilege. I will not. That only means that there'll be another question after your question. Okay, so not the last question. So as you will notice, I'm trying to persuade my colleagues that we have some more questions. Okay, so one and one more.
Thank you so much.
See, what I will do is, what we promised you is that the questions that you really may have, which you really want to ask, and I have been this I've been this usual dictatorial teacher, right? No questions. So whoever has questions which are not getting answered here, if you can email it, email it to the earthian.com ID, we will make sure that he responds to it. Is it okay? Okay. So I'll take one question there, and then I'll see, and I'll take it from that girl there. This is not your second question, is it? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Namaste, Azimji. My name is Pankaj Desai. I'm
You're
a student. Yes,
Okay.
I'm a student of MES Degree College, Bangalore. First of all, I would like to congratulate you for having created such an organization which sustains so many of us, individuals as well as families. And my question is, what is it that inspires the man who inspires so many of us today?
No, I think more than anything else, it's something which is very self-driven. I'm not able to put my hands around it adequately well. But I just believed very early in my career that whatever I do, I must do to a standard which exceeds myself. And that's been my major driver for whatever success I've been able to achieve, is you set standards for yourself which exceed yourself. And you keep trying to live up to those standards or trying to measure yourself against those standards. So that's what's really driven me, whether it be the smallest of acts or the biggest of acts, or the most routine of acts, is you try to build a standard of excellence in whatever you do. And that reflects on the whole. And if you're a little luckier added to it, it helps a lot.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. As she said, house is our first school where our parents and especially mothers teach us so many things. So why we should not teach those housewives or especially mothers so that she will be able to teach her child that how environment is important for us from an early age of her child. So what do you think about that?
Coach the mother on sustainability. You're talking about the mother of the household.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge influencing factor. So, I'm trying to think in terms of what would be the right approach. I'm not getting an easy handle on it. Part of adult education is important, even if it's very, very part-time. And if one is able to introduce some form of voluntary adult education for people who are enthusiastic about being so-called more educated, I think it could be a major influencer. What other thoughts would you have?
I think, and we are doing that, we are focused on that a lot, and we meaning not just the foundation or Wipro, but the nation actually, which is this issue of making sure that the girl child, right? Yeah. The girl child is educated as much as the boy child. Because in our country, the fact is that when you go out of this room, there is gender inequity galore. And eventually, it's the girl child who's the mother of the future. So therefore, making sure that there is equity in education, certainly from a gender standpoint and from every other standpoint, I think that's another critical angle. Yeah?
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Premji. I would like to thank another set of people without whom this program could not have worked at all. And these are the mentors. These are the mentors who have worked with the different teams, with the different students. I would like to invite the mentors on the stage to take a small group snap.
I'd like to read
Thank
out
you
the
so
names
much.
in random, calling out to all the mentors. As I call you, please step forward, and we'd like to get a group photograph at the end of which. Mr. Abhishek Ojha, ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause as I call their name. Venkatesh Prasad, Deepak Tiwari, Ajay Menon, Sarvanan, Natarajan, Sushil Kumar, Mohan Kumar, Gayatri Chauhan, Hemalata K, MD Sheikh Hafiz, Manoj Krishna, Ashish Kumar Mishra, Subramanian Datta, Chakravarti Rajan, Mahesh Kumar, Anmol Ratan, Ilima Dahi, Vinay Parikh, Tamara K, Jitender, and Hemant JP. Ladies and gentlemen, like I mentioned earlier, Wipro employees played an important role in reaching out to schools and colleges across India and spreading the awareness about the earthian. These employees volunteered as mentors to students participating in earthian. They have provided invaluable support and advice to the student teams. The team at earthian once again appreciates and applauds their effort. Once again, thank you very much, mentors.